Hi, welcome to Chapter 3. How does gender affect the monster? This is a chapter which examines gender in terms of the monster, but also gender in terms of the victim, or victims plural. Our prompt introduces us to a number of different works that take this on. Write an essay in which you respond to one of the following questions taken from Monsters, Chapter 3. So just as we did in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, you have a set of questions here based on the readings. Please remember that these are the questions and the only questions that I wish you to write on the Chapter 3 essay. Remember, I choose these questions because I think they'll make the best possible essays. It's on you to read these essays, look at the questions, and consider which one you would like most to write about. The first one is Fuller. Fuller is writing about a character called La Llorona, a monster from Mexico, a particularly interesting origin. She talks a lot about the origins of La Llorona, as well as what she does, how she is viewed both historically and in contemporary culture. We have a passage here from Homer. Homer, of course, wrote the famous story, The Odyssey. And in the Odyssey, the main character, Odysseus, has to pass by sirens. It's a very tempting thing because the sirens have beautiful voices. And when sailors pass by the sirens, they just want to jump into the water and swim to the sirens. Sounds a lot like the mermaid myth. Although what's interesting is in Homer's time, the sirens were taken to be birds with the heads of women, not fish like the traditional mermaid view. Speaking of mermaids, Kingshill goes on more about the mermaid myth and how the mermaid becomes, in fact, perhaps a symbol of feminism in today's world. It's a real switch if you look at the historical ways in which mermaids were viewed. Ovid takes on a different twist. In his story called Metamorphosis, or his book Metamorphosis, he has a story that takes place at a wedding of centaurs and humans. The centaurs are the guests. Now, centaurs are the creatures that are half man, half horse. They get drunk and they try to make off with the Greek women. So the Greek men, rushing to their defense, begin to fight. Now, a very important character is a character known as Caeneus. And Caeneus has an unusual backstory. Caeneus was born Canis, a female. She was raped by the god Poseidon, but Poseidon gave her, shall we say, one wish. And she wished to be made into a man so that she could never be raped again. Not only is she a man now, but she is a practically invincible warrior. Hollinger takes on two tellings of the same story at people. One from the 1940s, a black and white movie, and another from the 1980s, another rewritten version of the same story. Hollinger posits that the two different stories reflect different views of women in culture at that time, the culture of the 1940s United States, and later in the 80s United States, in which women's liberation had made serious changes to society. And Hollinger argues that those changes are reflected in how the movie responds to the monster, Irina. Irina is a woman who changes into a panther when she is, well, let's say, turned on. She is sexually stimulated. Instead of responding as a woman might, she turns into a panther and kills the man. Speaking of being a victim, Clover writes one of the most important works examining victimhood in horror films, and especially the slasher variety. This passage, called The Final Girl, examines the tendency in many slasher films for the hero to be a heroine, a woman who gets away, last survivor, if you will. The final girl has some distinct characteristics, Clover argues, make her the one who survives over all the others. The final article is written by Professor Halberstam. At the time, Professor Halberstam was known as Judith. Now, Professor Halberstam is known as Jack. Professor Halberstam examines the idea that the monster creates non-binary gender, neither male nor female, what's called a monster gender, a stitching and restitching of different urges, sexualities. And her argument causes us to really question what is really happening as we respond to some of these stories. The paper is due Monday, May the 17th, 2 weeks from today, 11:59 p.m. Be sure to follow the out-of-class essay guidelines for all matters of form and style, as I've always asked you to do. Be sure to include a word count at the end of your essay. Remember, you must meet minimum requirements, including word count, sources, and subject matter. Again, that means choose one of the questions, don't make up one of your own, or choose one of the discussion thread questions. No late essays will be accepted without a signed doctor's note or other verified legitimate excuse. That's a normal policy. Thesis sentence and topic outline should be due Friday, May the 7th, 11:59. So you have the length of this week to decide on what you're going to write about and start doing some initial work. Please have MLA citation entries for 3 of your sources, none of which are from the textbook. Some of you haven't been very good about this. You've been using the textbook as one of your sources. Listen, you can do that in the essay. For the outline, I want to see that you have found 3 sources outside of our textbook that you can use. And then next week, as we have done before, the class will be divided into peer groups of 3 or 4 students each. Submit your rough draft to the Canvas work group and to me on Wednesday, May the 12th, 11:59 p.m. You must submit to both to get full participation points. Okay, so don't forget to turn in to me and to your work group. Then submit completed peer edit guideline sheets to your work group and to me by Friday, May the 14th, 11:59 p.m. So you have basically 2 days to read each other's rough drafts and fill out the peer edit guideline sheets. Remember, this is for your benefit as well as the benefit of the student whose work you're looking at. Therefore, it's important to turn it into both groups, not just to me, but to the work group, so the students, your fellow students, get the benefit of your critique. So please remember both submissions to the work group and to me Friday, May the 14th. Minimum requirements for this assignment are similar, but not exactly what we did for Chapter 2. Same length, 1,000 to approximately 1,400 words. Strong essay structure, including an introduction, concession, rebuttal arguments, usually strewn throughout the main body, and a conclusion. Please make sure, if you're not familiar with these parts or you forget what these parts are about, look at the standard argumentative essay, which is posted in the introduction module of your course. Now, we want 6 sources on this paper, at least 4 of which originate in print or have print analogs, which means they originated in print somewhere, somehow, like a book, a magazine, a newspaper, a journal article, a government report, a dissertation, something of that sort, not including the textbook, okay? Now, 3 of these sources must be scholarly sources, although you can always have more. Scholarly sources are defined as dissertations, an article from a peer-reviewed journal, or excerpts from a university press book. And of course, MLA format and presentation and documentation, including correct works cited list. You start writing in MLA format or APA format or any other format, your grade sinks like a rock falling through a spider's web. Use MLA and do it properly. Okay? So I'm very much looking forward to this very exciting topic, gender and the monster. Opens up a lot of opportunities for new investigations and new thoughts about gender. Good luck.